If your team can't make a single decision without checking with you first, we're not leading a business here. So you're actually doing 10 jobs while everyone else is waiting for you. So not only are you holding yourself up, you're holding your team up. So let's break this down. What I see out in the wild, most of you, most founders with 8 or more staff, you're fielding 10, 20, 30 questions a day, right? Now, I actually had one of my clients last week get back to me and said 51 questions that their team should have been able to answer themselves. You know it, you hate it. And every productivity hack, every delegation pep talk, every just trust the team piece of advice has done nothing because none of it solves the actual problem. I see this all the time. I started my business career as a soft skills facilitator, so I know this. The problem is not that your team is incapable. It's that your decision paths in the business, they only exist right now in your head, right? So there's no map. And every time a situation comes up, the fastest route to an answer is still through you. And that's a problem. It's not the issue. A lot of founders come to me and they think, well, I'm a control freak. I'm the bottleneck because I'm a control freak. No, you are the bottleneck because you haven't built a business to run without you, right? So what do? I work with founders. You're doing 500K or more. You've generally got 8 or more staff. And I work with you to extract the decision logic that's stuck in your head and build it into a system that your team can actually use without asking permission for everything. And I see this all the time. And the good news is most founders will start seeing a measurable drop in their daily interruptions within the first 90 days. Not because anything in their team actually changed, but because the map finally exists. So let me explain to you how this works. This is a beautiful, beautiful thing. So let me get my screen share happening because this requires a diagram. So let me share my screen. Alrighty, so this is what we're working with, team. So this is what I like to call the decision delegation matrix, right? So we've got 4 quadrants. And while I'm drawing this up for you, let me tell you about Ryan. So Ryan is someone that we've worked with for quite some time. He is one of my favorite clients because he just listens to what we need him to do, which is absolutely fantastic. And he came to us with the same issue that a lot of you have. And I see so many of you in the same boat. When he first came to me, he was getting 10, 20, 30 questions before lunch every single day. And it's not that his team is incompetent. They were just waiting. They were terrified to send decisions his way. They were terrified to make decisions themselves. So big, small, reversible, permanent. The solution was always the same. Ask the boss, ask Ryan. And most decisions, a team escalates, they fall into one of 4 categories, right? So urgent versus non-urgent, reversible versus permanent. So if we look at our matrix here, when Ryan originally came to me, he was asking, or rather he was being asked, I should say, 10, 20, 30, like I said, up to 51 questions before lunch every single day. And it's not that his team was incompetent. It's just that they were waiting because every decision had one answer, and that was ask Ryan, right? So any of these decisions, so if we think about impact here, so we've got impact low or impact high, or if the decision was rare or frequent, they're all coming back to him. And I know the same thing is happening to you as well, right? So what do? How do we make this map work for you? So right now, your team doesn't have this. They don't have anything. They don't have any kind of matrix or any kind of map. So everything comes to you regardless of the category that we're playing with. So regardless of frequent or rare or low or high impact, or regardless of where it sits, right? So what do we need to do? Step one, we identify the decisions that only the founder makes, right? So not because we have a policy that says we should do it that way, but because no one else has ever been the criteria to make them. So with Ryan, what we did was we pulled these out in a 20-minute brain dump. Speed over perfection is always my motto. We want to get it done before we get it perfect. We're not writing a manual, right? We're just extracting logic that already exists. So that's the first step that we took. So just a brain dump. So for him, like I said, we found that he was making all of these decisions because he was the bottleneck. All of these questions were being fired at him. And what we found, which I'm going to map out for you in a moment, was that a lot of the decisions that were coming to him were actually something that they could do on their own. So we'll get to that in a second. Now, in this decision delegation matrix, you can do this yourself. We put the decision type in here, right? So whether is it frequent and something they can make on their own, so frequent and autonomous. So let me get my highlighter out. Is it rare and something we can guide them on? Is it frequent and consulted? Or is it sorry, not frequent and consulted. Is it high impact and consulted? Or something that has to come back to the founder, which is rare and high impact. So just to recap those. So frequent, low impact, it can be autonomous. If it's rare and low impact, it can be guided. If it's frequent and it's high impact, it can be consulted. If it's rare and high impact, it can be founder-led, right? So let me scrap all that for a second and I'll take you through it. So how do we map this out? In Ryan's world, he's got multiple team members. And let's just show you an example of 5 things that he went through. So frequent and autonomous, an example of one of those would have been, so a price decision, right? So we came up with a system to solve pricing decisions so that his team could make it on their own. Another example of an autonomous and frequent decision that they could handle on their own was inclusions. So types of things they could include in a package without having to get permission. So what we ended up saying was anything valued under $500, you're authorized to do as an inclusion, because this is something that comes up quite regularly. Now, from here, what about guided and rare? So something that might be a little bit rare would be, in his world, so it would be a scope change. A scope change. So for him, if the project scope has changed halfway through a project, it's something that might need some guidance from someone who's been there before. So it could be a senior team member, or it could be the founder, just depending on the type of project. So that might be a scope changed. Now, frequent and consulted, Scope changes don't happen very often, but something that does happen quite regularly in their industry and in their business is time extension. So what he found was that clients were taking a little bit longer to get information across to him. So what that meant was projects would get held up. So it's frequent. Clients are busy as well as the business being busy. So the team would need to come to a leader or a manager in the organization and consult on that. Let's look at timelines and let's work together towards a solution. Now, finally, rare and founder decisions. That is where, now, unfortunately, in his team, we had a situation where we had an underperformer. So performance management in this case, but we actually had to let someone go. So performance management, staffing decisions. So that really does need to come back to the founder in this case, the way his business is set up. He will get to the point in the next couple of years where he's got a HR team or his general manager making those decisions. But for the moment, that's where he is at. So as you can see, what's really cool about the decision delegation matrix here is that we've got 4 quadrants. We can map things out. It doesn't have to be pretty. It can be super messy. And each decision type gets an owner. It gets a set of criteria and an escalation trigger. So we're getting a bit more into the weeds of what I've mapped out here, but say a pricing decision. Whoa, wrong way, go back. A pricing decision here. So this guy here, if we've made a pricing decision, or we need to make a pricing decision, the owner would be, in this case, the staff member who's doing the quote or the proposal. The set of criteria is set out in a checklist or in a flow chart. I love a good flow chart. If this, then that. If this, then that. And if it does need to be escalated, so specific conditions where it does need to come back to the founder, so coming back across this way, let's say if the client, I don't know, they've asked for a 50% discount, we would probably just have a condition that says that's a no. But if there's a special circumstance under which the client, we want to come back to the founder, awesome. So this is massive when you execute it. And the cool thing is, the next step, rather, we need to embed this, right? So this thing, you're going to make it sexier, you're going to make it prettier, you're going to bake it into your business DNA. It's going to go into onboarding every new hire. They are going to inherit the complete version of this decision architecture from day one. It's going to go into your operating rhythm so that existing team members have something to point to all the time instead of a person. Now, by the time we finish, Ryan had gone to, or rather he'd come from this place of, I just can't handle all the questions coming at me because I'm not getting anything done. I'm not being the CEO in my business, to actually being able to sit there. And he's lucky if he gets 2 to 3 questions a week now. Now, nothing changed in terms of his team or his people. All that changed was his architecture. Now, I would love to hang out with you and go through this together. And what that looks like is booking a decision audit with me. Now, I would love to spend some time with you and map this out for you. Let's get your top 5 down with a decision audit. Now, founders who book a call with me this week, the decision audit, will walk away with a live map of which decisions are costing them the most time, a first draft of their decision delegation structure, and clarity on which decisions they can hand off immediately, whether we work together after that or not. This, my friends, is a working diagnostic, and you will leave with something that you can use on the very same day. Get locked in, jump in my calendar, book in your decision.